Did you know that you have rights? The Constitution says you do. Hi, I'm Pimothy Shimbles, and I agree. The safety of others is an important part of the American legal system. When someone is injured by another party, the law is usually involved. But what if the perpetrator was an animal? And what if the animal was a bee? Look, I'm not a lawyer, but I've watched half an episode of Better Call Saul on someone else's TV on an airplane 3 years ago, so I think I'm more than qualified to talk about the law here. No matter what, I'll go above and beyond. So let's say you were stung by a bee. What would you have to do in order to achieve justice for your damages? Would you sue the bee? Yeah, you're gonna sue the bee? Yeah, you think they're gonna show up in court? You think the judge is gonna like that? You think the Barry B. Benson's gonna be sitting across from you? Yeah. No, they're probably dead. Okay, the bee's probably dead if it's a honeybee. You'll probably end up looking as foolish as this guy. So if you want any kind of compensation, you'll probably have to sue the property owner of the place in which you were stung. But would it be successful? See, you could file a suit for pretty much anything. I could file a suit against you for watching this video right now. But what would you have to prove to be successful and win your case? We're gonna have to go off a very limited set of circumstances because we could play the what if game all day. What if the bee acted in self-defense? What if the victim was committing tax fraud when they were stung? What if the bee was committing tax fraud? So there's gonna be two cases we're looking at today that provide precedent for this problem. And I know these can be boring, but I'm gonna move quickly through them and then we'll talk about what we've learned afterwards. The year is 1985. Joseph Fibesh and his wife went to a party at the Foxhall Inn, also known as the Inn. Very original. But this epic party would come to an end, as Fibesh was stung by a bee. See, he had an extreme allergic reaction and was left a paraplegic for the rest of his life. Guess this video's got to be pretty serious from now after that. Guess you can't make any jokes after that, it's kind of serious stuff. Gotta be careful. Fibesh filed a lawsuit against the inn, claiming that they were negligent in having a party on a day in which yellow jackets and bees were flying about and could sting people, potentially causing injury. Employees would later testify that they would spray the yard every day for bees and insects. They also could never find the hive in which that bee came from. After going through a few levels of the court system to the appellate stage, the courts would rule in favor of the defendant, the inn, and they found that they were not guilty of being negligent. Okay, I'm going to reference that again later, so remember every single detail I just said. Got it? Good. Next case! The year is 1986, 1 year after the previous case. David Brunel spent the weekend at a vacation home owned by Anthony Signor. During his stay, he was bitten by a brown recluse spider, which are big, avoid others, and tend to bite people. So they're just like me! Also, I know it's not a bee, but it'll all make sense later. Just chill out for now. Instead of receiving Cole's Spidey powers, the tissue in his foot was heavily damaged and he was wheelchair bound for over 2 months. He filed suit against the owner of the property, claiming they were negligent in letting him get bitten by this creature. The court would rule in favor of Mr. Signor, and they'd say that the property owner doesn't have responsibility to protect the tenant from insect bites or stings. See, it's relevant under the current circumstances. So what have we learned? If you've been stung, what do you have to prove to show that the property owner has been negligent? One of the first things you have to prove is that you've sustained impressive damages. It can't just be a small bite or a little bump or anything. It has to be like allergic reaction, you have to be serious messed up, or you have to die, which is not ideal. The court stated in the first case that the number of bees can have an effect on this. The first case only had about 10 or so bees, which wasn't super bad. But if there was like 100 more billion bees, whoa, then you might have a case in your hands. You have to consider if the property has a history of people getting stung on it. The hotel in the first case didn't have a whole lot of stings before that, so they didn't have any reason to be worried about this. You also have to consider whether the victim was able to move away from the bees. See, in the first case, they were free to go inside the hotel at any time when they saw there were bees outside. Now, if we move to the second case, they actually outline a handy-dandy little criteria that we can use to tell if someone is negligent or not. So they won't be held negligent if they meet the 4 criteria. 1, it isn't generally known that there are insects in the area. 2, the homeowner doesn't know that there are bees inside their house or around their house. 3, the homeowner hasn't seen bees around their home at that time. 4, which means 4 in Spanish. This one includes whether the homeowner or the victim have not seen the bee before or after they have been stung. So in conclusion, it would be very hard to sue someone over a bee sting and be successful. The circumstances necessary to prove that would be very hard to prove. Rule of 3s, baby. So it'd have to be something super ridiculous, like someone invites you to their backyard, knowing you have a bee allergy, and then like they lock you back there with the bees, and then you're stung like multiple times, and then like you die. So you're not super likely to receive financial compensation after being stung by a bee. So in the meantime, it might be best to just have a good relationship with bees and live on and prosper. Star Trek.